Actually, I started on photography, but I was doing it back then before the digital age, so everything was film and paper-based, so it was kind of expensive. So I moved towards mixed media because it was cheaper. People were throwing stuff out, you know. One man's trash is my treasure, you know, in that regard. So it was easier and cheaper that way to create assemblages using discarded objects. Yeah, a lot of my earlier work, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I did a lot with the more spiritual aspects, like even like traditional African cultures that appear in the South, especially like Congo and Yoruba, as far as like influences, whether it's like how people use conch shells in cemeteries and so forth. The piece was kind of inspired by African masks and also a little bit of Native American iconography. The idea behind it was more about the appearance of black athletes in sports, whether it's collegiate level or professional level, and how they seem to like defy gravity. Like that's the name Black Magic, like this idea of having this kind of otherworldly powers on a basketball court. And it started off with the base, which it was a wooden ironing board, and from there I just have like different items that I found in various places and put them together, kind of like improvising like jazz, but then I will kind of do a sketch in my notebook and then kind of come up with a more well thought out plan, and then think about how certain pieces relate and what they can symbolize that way. Like one component is a sweet sweeper brush, and at the time when I showed a curator here, it was kind of reminiscent of a porcupine quill vest that they have in their collection, so it kind of had a conversation with the piece in the art museum that way. If you see, it's like a two-headed figure. There's a basketball as a head, and there's one lower with the cowrie shells for eyes, and it's kind of the idea of this duality. There's kind of a higher self and lower self, and the merging of the two. And in the middle is a what's known as a veve. It's the Haitian symbol used to evoke divine spirits. So I was kind of intersecting that kind of idea of spirituality and religion in sports in that way as well. Sports becomes like almost like a religious experience for people, how people root for certain teams, and how everything's kind of ritualized in a sense, you know, from different forms of how they introduce the teams and how there's a call and response between the crowd and whatnot, just like in church. So there's a lot of influences in my work that way, where I combine different elements to create a piece. I've been drawing ever since I was a kid, so it was, I probably got it from probably my father and my grandmother, who were creative types in certain ways, so yeah. Yeah, I did a piece, I used a found quilt and used pictures of my family, actual photos like Polaroids. And it's a piece I did about gentrification in Southeast Raleigh, so that was one of my more personal pieces. As far as my process, I use different materials. I also paint and tar, but as far as assemblages, I guess the most fun part is finding the object that I might not expect. Sometimes, actually, I feel like they find me. Like I did another basketball piece using a found gymnasium floor panel. I took a basketball and split it open. So it's kind of like finding ways to present certain objects in different ways. Sometimes I don't alter them, sometimes I do. Initially, it was Jean-Michel Basquiat. Back in 1996, I saw the movie, and at the time I wasn't really producing art like I am now. And watching that film got me inspired to want to pursue it as a profession, not just as something on the side. Also, Romare Bearden for his collage work, and Robert Rauschenberg for his work as well. Oh, and David Hammons. Gotta mention David Hammons. Hopefully I'll be recognized for the work that I do. I don't have any children, so my artwork is my legacy in that regard. You know, that's my children. So I guess sports in general is kind of like a metaphor. As far as boxing goes, it's kind of like a metaphor for fighting in life's boxing ring. There's always some kind of struggle or fight. There's always a competition, basically, either between two teams or two individuals. So that's how it seems to be, like the American way. There's a lot of competition going on, too, trying to be number one and all that. So it's a social commentary about that, basically. And a lot of my work, I even question, like, why are things the way that they are, socially and politically? And so I question power structures as well and hierarchies in my work. So a lot of that has to do with my main goal is to present those kind of ideas in the public realm.